Susie, hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's lovely to see you on Zoom because I'm ever so nosy and I like looking at people's houses, but you're in bed. You're in bed.
I am in bed, which is a false sense of who I actually am. It seems like I'm a lady of leisure, but actually, I'm just trying to keep my dog from barking so much into this because she will if I don't fake like a bed scenario.
I
She just
love
goes
it.
at me.
What kind of dog you got?
She's a pug.
Oh,
And
cute.
she's tiny. And I actually did get her because it says online that they are lazy and they lie. She is active. I wanted a lazy dog, and I have been misled by Google.
Do you know something? I'm misled by Facebook because everybody's parenting is perfect. Everybody's children are always clean. Everybody's
Oh,
children are always perfect. See what I
of
did
course.
there? I segued from the lies about the dogs to because this Priscilla Queen of Disaster is being described as a brutally honest, true story about being a mum.
It is, yes.
Tell me more. I love this.
So basically, when I become a mum, I sort of looked out in online to this heavily curated version that I saw of it, and that was not the experience I was having. And I was like, well, there's either something wrong with that or there's something wrong with me. So I chose that because do you know what? I'm in therapy already. I don't need to unearth anymore. And so I thought, I was like, oh, I need to tell the truth of this. I
Mm,
need to start talking about the difficult parts because it doesn't make me ungrateful. It doesn't mean I love my kids any less. It just means that it's a more real and human experience.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, if I let go of that, the kids can let go of that as well, and we can
Mm.
live a bit more of a healthy life.
I absolutely love it. Now I can hear now because, it's that time of the day when it's school run and things like that. I
Yeah.
can hear parents everywhere punching the air because it's true what you're saying. That children aren't born with a guidebook. We hear that all the time. But
Yep.
I think it's probably more like that really it's just terrifying, isn't it? I mean, I
It
remember
is.
I brought home with my partner, we brought home our twin boys and sat there at home and went, oh God, what do we do now?
Yeah, that feeling of, oh, I felt like I prepared
Yeah,
for each stage that I was in. So I was like, right, I'm pregnant now.
yeah.
I'm really lucky to be pregnant, feel really grateful. Just get to the next bit, next to the bit, next bit. And then they just hand you this baby and I start asking you questions like, how are you going to feed it? I don't know. I remember my mum coming into the hospital to visit me for the first time when I had my first little boy. And she said, he started crying and she said, is he hungry? And I looked at her and I said, I don't know. I don't know when he last ate. He was in there. I've got no clue
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
doing.
I know.
And I think as well, we often like try to portray as though on, especially online, because of judgments we receive from other people, that we do know what we're doing. And the point of it is, we still don't.
Yeah,
Like, it's not even as though I've been a mum now. My eldest is 10 years, but I've
yeah,
never had a 10-year-old before.
that's right.
And I'd never dealt with those hormones, let alone
every
my own.
every milestone brings something new, doesn't it? And I think I love that you're being so authentic about this because the more stuff that we see like this and the more moments we can have where we laugh together, I think the
Yes.
more that we can feel comfortable in our skin and realize we're all just doing our best.
Absolutely. And knowing that there is a complete difference, like a world away from the perfection
Mm,
to good enough.
yeah.
And knowing that actually that's not a model you want for your kids anyway, because they're not going out into a perfect world
No,
where everything goes right and everyone gets along and no one's snapping at each other and we get it right every single time.
totally.
And we're sort of forced into this narrative to sort of show that we are, but actually all that does is disconnect us from each other.
Mm,
And actually, if you have, like, I know I've been the person that has celebrated the successes online, but I also want to share the difficult parts. But and I've found that in doing that, you connect in a far deeper way and more authentic way when you tell the truth of your story, which is in the struggles, which is in the things that didn't go wrong, when you laugh at them, when you cry at them,
yeah.
instead of saying, "Oh yeah, no, this is all going really, really well," because it's just not true. I don't know any mum, and I've got quite a few mum friends now who is sailing through it, no problems.
Do you know when you just talked about when you share, the ups and the downs of it all and the frustrations and all of those things,
Yeah.
how you connect on a deeper level? Imagine the connection you're having going out on the road and doing this. Tell me about the show, how it's framed, how you kind of tell that narrative, really.
Oh, well, it's a true story of when I became a mum to my second child, actually. I was I started to look out and realize that I needed to tell a different story. And so I started writing that story down. My life took a bit of a U-turn, and it was really sort of helpful for me to sort of process that into a version of sort of single motherhood. And I was like, I need to write this down. And I didn't really know where it was going, if I'm honest with you. And I'm quite glad, because I'm really, really honest about that. But then when I did perform the show, people stayed around afterwards, and we all spoke about our stories, and they shared their stories with me too. And the idea of it is to laugh at the things that haven't got right, and to pick apart the bits that are, the bits that no one's telling you about.
Yes.
How, like, you're going to find yourself being pumped at some point for milk, and
Yeah.
how you're just expected, after you've like delivered this child, to get back up and crack on. And not only that, you've got to look after this baby along the way as well, and actually you've got to make sure that you're really, really grateful about those things as well, and all of that. So I started to write about it, and then in performing it, I realized that people would share their stories too. So I do the show, we have a laugh, there's some like more poignant moments in it, there's moments of vulnerability in it. I share the things that, maybe nobody's saying, about how they don't quite feel like they feel good enough. And then afterwards, we all have a big old chat about it,
I
and
love it.
hopefully feel a little bit connected and a little bit less alone in this really isolating time in your life that it can feel like sometimes.
It's gorgeous. I love that. And you're right, because you said there about, I mean, eventually we ended up with a cesarean section. And after a cesarean section, within hours, you're expected to get up, go and take off that dressing, to walk up the ward, to have a shower, and then to look after 2 babies. And that's it.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Hang on a minute. I've just been through a major operation here.
Honestly, that's a huge part of my show, is talking about that process and how, and it's just kind of, because it's not an illness, it's sort of downplayed a little bit. And I remember, and also there's that narrative of being like too posh to push, and as though it's an easier option.
I get so cross when I hear too posh to push, because the rehabilitation after a C-section. It's a woman's thing though, and it's downplayed.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And obviously we are really grateful that we've got these babies, that we are healthy afterwards. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't say, that was really traumatic, that was really painful, that was really invasive, and I'm going to need a minute. I'm going to need a minute before I just crack on and do a photo shoot about this wonderful arrival. And
this is the truth of it all. And the joy is that you wouldn't change it for the world. And our children are our lives. But nonetheless, it's not easy getting them here. And it's a journey bringing them up.
Absolutely. And it's knowing that, I think what's so important for everybody's well-being, for the well-being of the mum, for the partner, for the babies, is that things can be multiple things at once. I can adore my children more than I've ever loved anything in the world. I couldn't have imagined, or I don't want to imagine, a world where we're not all together.
Yeah, totally.
However, I can say, God, this is really hard sometimes.
Yeah, of course it is.
And I'm struggling, or I got it wrong, and I've made mistakes, and I keep showing up anyway. And that actually is where the beauty of it is. It's not perfect. It's not polished. It's in all of these little fragmented parts that some go right and some go wrong. And that's where you'll connect with other people, is because everybody's doing that. But not everybody feels brave enough or courageous enough, because of society, to say those things. That's kind of my job.
All power to you. Look, I'm just looking at the time. I could talk to you all day, and do you know what you've done? You've created rapport. And I'm sure every mum listening right now, and some of the dads, just in terms of the parenting journey, but in terms of, the having a child, that they will be connecting with this and going, do you know what? Oh my goodness, at last. This is fantastic. If you fancy going along to see Susie doing her thing and telling it like it is, and just to connect and hear stories and share, it's Priscilla, Queen of the Disaster. It's at the Courtyard Theatre in Hereford on the 21st of April. And the Swan Theatre in Worcester on the 12th of May. Have a look at their respective websites. Grab yourself some tickets, go along and just enjoy. All power to you, Susie. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
And the pug was ever so good. The bed trick worked.
Yeah. Do you know, and I don't mind that trick either. It works for both of us, if I'm honest.
You need a rest sometimes. All power to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.